6 p.m., so that means it's time for the September meeting of the City of Beavercreek Planning Commission. And since I've called it to order, we'll go for a roll call.
Mr. Height is absent. Mr. Loftus.
Here.
Mrs. Schwartz is absent. Mr. Schreider.
Here.
Mr. Self.
Here. So first of all,
I'd like to move to
we need
excuse
to, thank you.
Miss Akers Schwartz.
Yes.
And Mr. Height.
Okay. I
I'll
got a
second.
motion, I got a second, and we'll do that by general
Yes.
consensus. Thank you very much. Jump right in there. Thank you. Agenda. Staff, anything, any additions, corrections, changes to the agenda? We good to go? Okay. I also need, we're going to be motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to
Full
approve
tonight.
the agenda as written.
Okay.
I'll second.
And we'll do that by general consensus. Thank you. Minutes from July, since we did not have an August meeting. Any additions, corrections, changes, et cetera? We good?
Yep.
Your turn.
Mr. Chair, I approve, or motion to approve the minutes from July 3rd, 2019.
I'll second the motion.
And we'll do that by general
Yes.
consensus. Thank you very much. Tonight, we have 2 public hearings, a decision item, and a subdivision. Before I go into that, our rules say that we must pass things by a majority of the planning commission, not by a majority of those present. So essentially, tonight, things will have to be unanimous among the 3 of us. Just wanted to make sure y'all understood that. Our first public hearing, do you want to read that? Or, okay, it's 19-1 SSP1, the International Harvester Credit Union. The applicant has asked to table that case until October. So I need a motion to table.
Mr. Chair, I move to table PUD 19-1 SSP number 1
Until
the October meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And we'll do that by consensus.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Now, we've got one that's real and live. Melissa, you want to go ahead and read it?
This is case number PC 19-5. It's an ASRA detailed site plan on an application filed by Anchor Development LLC, 3825 Edwards Road, Suite 630, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45209. The applicant requests an administrative site plan review and approval in ASRA for 1.113 acres of land to construct a 4,207 square foot Panera restaurant. The property is located at the southeast corner of North Fairfield Road and Dayton Senior Road, further described as Book 5, Page 5, Parcel 102 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Thank you. Since this is a public hearing this evening, the way we do our public hearings is we ask for a presentation by the applicant. Then we'll get a staff report. At that point, we will open the public hearing for any comments from the audience or any written comments that we've received. Once that is all done, then we'll close the public hearing and discuss it amongst ourselves and vote. So I presume there is someone here from Panera or representing Panera.
Good evening. My name's Ann McBride, and I'm a zoning consultant actually working with Anchor, who is a developer for Panera. And we've had the opportunity to review your staff report. We've met with them several times. As you've heard, basically what we're proposing to do is to take the corner property there where Friendly's is and to demolish the Friendly's to construct a Panera restaurant that would have a drive-through restaurant and then adjacent parking. I won't go through their whole staff report and steal their thunder, but just to kind of hit on some of the high points. We've worked with staff, I think, to design the building to include some of the elements that they were looking for example, like the scuppers would be, the downspouts would be invisible. We're going to obviously screen our mechanical equipment. We have also worked with your city engineer on the North Fairfield access point to restrict that from the full movement access point that exists today. We're going to be removing and installing new landscaping, and that would include on the city side of that retaining wall to kind of upgrade that, and then we're also going to be maintaining that. The city has suggested, the sign that we proposed was in compliance, but they've suggested that we extend the brick up from the base on either side of the sign, and we are in agreement to that. I think one of the biggest features of this site is that, in the redevelopment of this site rather, is that as a part of that, we're going to be extending the access drive to the bank's property line there. Anchor has reached out to the actual property owners of that property several times and has not heard back from them with regards to that. I know the city has been working the other way through the bank and hopefully trying to get that to come to fruition. Whether it does or it doesn't, as a part of this development, the access drive will actually be extended to the property line so that should that property ever redevelop or they decide this is a really good idea, then it would be all systems go for that. So I think that's kind of just the high points of, if you had questions, there's an outdoor patio as a part of this Panera. This is their new model. Brad Kopp and Douglas Compton are also here with me from Anchor if you had specific questions of them, or I could try to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The case you have before you is PC 19-5. Again, it's the Panera Bread. We're here this evening for an administrative site plan review and approval process. And again, they're looking to build a little over 4,200 square foot restaurant on about 1.1 acres. Project located in central Beavercreek, actually just to the southeast of the intersection of North Fairfield Road and Dayton Xenia Road. As you can see from this aerial, there is the existing Friendly's is on site. And there's two access points currently to the site, one off of North Fairfield and one off of Dayton Xenia Road. The reason we're here this evening is this property falls within the Dayton Xenia planning area, number 3 on the land use plan, and as such, or any area designated as a planned development area. In order to develop or significantly redevelop the site, they were required to go through this administrative site plan review and approval, or ASRA. The process is very similar to the site plan stage of a PUD. Where Planning Commission is a recommending body and City Council ultimately approves or disapproves the application, not solely but highly based on the Planning Commission's recommendation. The project's zone B2 and drive-through restaurants or restaurants with a drive-through component are allowed use within a B2 zoned area. The property to the north is the Shell gas station, just on the other side of North Fairfield, also B2. Ultimately to the east is PUD 88-9 or 479, and there's the U.S. Savings Bank, and then to the south is the Marian's Piazza. And then to the west is the recently developed multi-tenant Mills Morgan or Synergy Development multi-tenant retail building, and then the Jerusalem property, which is also a multi-tenant retail. Seen here is the proposed site plan. Again, the applicant, as they stated, there's 2 access points to the site, and they're generally in the same location as the existing access points, one off of this access road. But this application, they are showing a small concrete feature out here crossing the right-of-way line, so it does restrict movements to a right-out only, rather than a right and left out, which is what you have now, which is a dangerous movement, or more of a dangerous movement because of if you have cars coming left, they'd be crossing traffic and ultimately trying to look at traffic coming south on North Fairfield. So this application does represent a more sturdy of traffic movement on the site. Here's the cross access that the applicant was discussing earlier. It's on the southeast corner of the site, and we'd be looking to connect to this bank. We had to move it just to the north a little bit so that it lines up with this drive aisle. And as the applicant stated, we've been working on reaching out to the property owner. It's they lease the property from the property owner, the bank does, so it's not a direct contact. I mean, it's not like we can just. It would be a third-party review, so that's what it's a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, that's something we are diligently working towards. Based on the numbers and the size of the restaurant, including the outdoor patio, they're required to have 49 parking spaces. This application shows 50. So they do meet the minimum requirements, as well as 2 handicap parking spaces, which they do meet the minimum requirements of ADA and within our code. The drive-through is on the east side of the building. You see here's the order window, and then you pull around, and ultimately the pickup window is on the north side of the building. This is one-way movement on this side of the building, and from this corner up to this corner is, in the counterclockwise direction, and you got 2-way movements here on the south and the west side of the building. This just to give you a better idea of how it fits in with the site as it currently is, and that access point lined up with the drive aisle and then the Dayton Xenia and North Fairfield access points. Seen here is the proposed architectural elevations of the building. The building itself is proposed at 24 feet tall, 63 feet long, and 71 feet wide. Again, the front of the building will face North Fairfield Road, and there's a outdoor patio on that side of the road. A majority of the building will be constructed of a dark brown brick, and then there's a mid-tone a composite siding on the corner of the building, and then there are green fabric awnings. And then on the other corner of the buildings, or the other 2 corners of the building, there's a tan or beige ephes feature. This is another view of the 4 sides of the architectural elevations. You can see they have the brick wrap base that it goes around the entire building, so there are 4-sided architectural features. This is the proposed landscape plan. You can see they are proposing to use a lot of landscaping and really accent the site. And then, as the applicant stated, there's going to be some landscaping on the bottom. This is it goes from 6 to 4 foot retention wall, kind of trending downward towards the intersection. And they're proposing to have some landscaping on the bottom side of the wall as well, which is in our right of way. But we're going to have them sign and they've agreed to sign a maintenance agreement so that they're maintaining that landscaping out there rather than the city coming out and maintaining, a small strip of landscaping along the right of way there. But as you can see, they are proposing to use a abundant amount of landscaping to help accent the site. Their lighting plan, they'll be required to have all the poles outside of any parking areas, and there's a condition that they have 25-foot tall max light fixtures, which matches is similar to what's out there now in terms of the Kimco property to the east and the south. So it's compatible with what we've got there now. They're proposing a 44 square foot Panera bread and logo sign on all 4 elevations, and then on one of the elevations they have the wall sign that's the drive-through that represents that there's a drive-through in the building. Staff has no concerns with the wall sign, and then the ground sign. Excuse me, the ground sign. You can see that they are proposing, or we added a condition that brick wrap up each side of the ground sign, which will be out here on the northwest corner of the site. Staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request. There are 18 conditions in the resolution for your consideration, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you. Your usual very complete report. Thank you. That makes it easier for us. As this is a public hearing, if there is anyone here who wishes to speak about this particular proposed development, step right on up. I see a dearth of people. Did we get any written input? No written input. Okay, last chance to comment. I'll close the public hearing then, and I'll start on my left.
All right. So I guess I have 2 questions for staff. I'll knock out the obvious ones. So from a traffic concern, you made the statement, turning left out of I guess it would be the south entrance. So we got the curb bump there to prevent that.
Right.
But on the north entrance, you can still turn left, and it's the same situation. I mean, so I'm just curious what thought was put into being able to turn left out of one of them, but not the other one. I mean, I don't like left either way.
Right. I mean, they have full lefts and right outs now, and, we want to make sure people can still, access the light at some point, and coming out of the site. It was a negotiation just to get the full access on Dayton, Xenia, and then the right out.
So
Yeah.
is there going to be anything preventing anybody from turning left into Panera that's heading west on Dayton Xenia?
From this direction?
Right.
No, but there is a turn lane there. I mean, they have the turn lane for the traffic signal, so, I mean, it's the same situation you would have now when Friendly's was, fully open, where if somebody's pulling in the left side, they would be waiting here, and then someone going left at the light would just go around. I mean, with 2 lanes of traffic, that's how traffic movement they would just go around somebody that'd be in that left-hand turn lane. It'd be more concerning if there wasn't that left-hand turn lane, or if there wasn't 2 lanes of traffic. And previously, this lane ended, right at the CVS, this, I guess,
Right.
northern westbound lane, whereas now it kind of goes further down into the
Rock Drive.
Yeah, I just want to make
funeral
sure
home.
we've thought it through, because it's concerning where somebody would be stopped waiting to turn left in, somebody would be waiting to turn left out, and then people are trying to turn left up on North Fairfield Road, so you got all 3 of those things happening at one time. I understand with Friendly's it was like that,
Right.
but I would expect this place to be a lot busier,
Sure.
a lot more hours of the day.
And with
So-
the drive-through window picking up here, and that was the other thought process of having one of them left out, whereas if you picked up, you would go out this way rather than coming all the way around the building and going out again. So a majority of the use we would anticipate would be down here, or when we
Okay.
when we do get this, hopefully sooner or later, people will be leaving the site through this second or this tertiary access on through the bank site.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that rear exit would alleviate all the concerns. Okay, so the engineer didn't have any issues with any of that?
This is the site plan that he reviewed at and
Okay.
is comfortable with.
All right. And then the only other one, just for consideration, or just that it was thought through, if the traffic pattern is one way, only half the building, if I turn left at the south side there, it almost feels like a do not enter once you get to the end where the drive-thru's coming out.
Oh, here?
Yeah, so say I don't know where I'm going, I turn left and I go up there, and now I can't go anywhere, and there's cars parked there, and if I don't know that I can't come around the entire building when I turn left in the south, how will I know that I'm not going to be stuck down there and trying to back up that whole thing if there's no parking spots, let's say?
Okay, so you're talking about,
Yep, so I'm coming in right where your dot is, and I'm heading west, and I'm going all the way up, and I get to the end, and now I
Oh.
can't go anywhere because all those spots are filled up, and I can't go right because that's one way back, and then I've got the drive-through right there. So I'm just thinking in my head like how Chick-fil-A does, where they have a constant you can only go one direction because we know how busy that place gets. So it was just I don't know if there's, just pointing it out in case it
Sure.
wasn't thought
No, I-
thought of.
Arrows on the
we can look at some signage or something at this corner to ensure that by the time you get to here, you know that there's no right turn.
Yeah, I don't know how you would. I don't
it-
know how you would do
with
that.
that drive-through. It's challenging to have. It's just the site is limited in terms of the size. We're kind of, if this was an empty lot, we could have them make the lot bigger. But with this,
Right,
the
yeah.
lot being the size that it is, we're kind of limited to working with what we've got. And
But I mean,
so-
if you're coming in 2 entrances and you can only go in one direction, whether you come in from the north or the south, it's a constant circle pattern. So if you have to get around to a spot, there's no chance of somebody going the wrong direction or something of that sort. Where if I pull in and I want one of those side spots or the back, you just pull around the entire building.
Yep, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to put arrows on the ground.
yeah, I mean there'll be arrows painted in the pavement.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of. But that's something that you will definitely take a look at, especially before we go to City Council.
Okay.
And I'll talk with the applicant and their engineer about some solutions about what we can do at this corner right there.
All right. That's all the questions I had.
Okay?
Thank you.
Guess by process of elimination,
Yep.
that's me next.
Ain't
So
anybody else left?
So I've got a couple more questions on the park, because I'm kind of like my colleague over here.
Microphone.
That I really don't like that left. First of all, it's 40 miles an hour versus 35, so that's where I'm. Oh, no, I'm sorry. If you can come up, I'm sorry, I want to ask a question. What is the property owner's inherent right as far as traffic flow in and out of their property versus the city's easement? Because from my understanding, it's the city's easement that actually breaks the curb line, and that it's not necessarily up to the property owner, the ingress and
Right.
egress points into their property.
No, you have to grant access. Obviously, that's the first thing you have to do. But from a right in, right out standpoint, if we're
Yep.
looking at both of those, I mean, it's a business thing. It's whether we want to create a situation where the business is successful or it's not successful. It's also what do we do to bring people who are new into town for soccer tournaments? How do we get them?
Oh,
to
no,
understand?
I think it's a challenging site. I totally
Yeah, I mean,
get
but
that,
we have to. We looked at the same thing with Speedway. I mean, when Speedway came in, you had to left out, right there on Kemp Road in order to get them in and out. You can't. Once somebody passes, right now, if you limited it to right in, right out, you're really only serving traffic heading north and traffic heading west, and then it becomes a maze on how to get in to Panera. If you can't go, I mean, I know you can come in left if you're heading eastbound, but getting left out of there, I mean, it's going to be it's critical for getting people in and out. I understand your point earlier about we'll look at that circulation internally through the parking lot because that
Think about
does
the
present a
Sunoco.
challenge.
That's Sunoco. Have you ever seen how long somebody has sit
Sure.
to try to make a left out of there during any sort of daylight hours? I mean, it can take 5, 10, 15 minutes for somebody to try and pull out of there. And if you're going to have that kind of volume with a drive-through, which is going to create additional volume you wouldn't normally see at a Panera, it's going to create a little bit more because I'll take advantage of it because I don't have to go in to get my bagels. I'm really, really worried at being at the corner of our busiest intersection that Panera's going to be busy, like really, really busy, and I'm just as concerned. And it's 5 miles an hour faster coming out of Dayton Xenia, the oncoming traffic.
I mean,
versus
sure.
35
Given the
coming
proximity to the intersection, depending on if it's a green light, that light circles through pretty quickly. Given the level of service there is already at a D, so I mean, you'd
Right,
rarely
you've
see
also got a
anybody.
continuous kind of looping right over here to
Sure.
the north as well. That also creates an additional blind. You've almost got a blind spot there because they don't really have to stop. They can continuously loop.
Yeah, I mean, we ran into this similar situations in any corner lot. I mean, it's really
Sure.
challenging, but we also got to be sympathetic to how the business works and how they can operate. And the
Well,
best
but I mean,
decision.
the way I look, it's got to be sympathetic to everybody that lives in the community
Sure.
too. One business can't.
And that's where we
can't
worked with our
stop
engineer,
that.
and that's what the, that left-hand turn coming through there, coming out of there, again, would allow somebody who's not familiar with town not to have to go right on North Fairfield and make a U-turn just a little bit further down the road and then turn around to get to North Fairfield. Most of our commercial corridors are that way.
They wanted to get to the western part of Dayton Xenia, though. Couldn't they just roll around to this right out only and then make a left-hand turn? I mean, that's normally how you do these circular flows in high traffic areas. Is you just
left-hand
make a right and
turn.
then make a left at the light. I mean, we're reshaping 35 and to make lefts. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm trying to understand the
So
property
your
owner's
concern
intent
is
right
not
here.
is going left out of here anywhere
Going left out of Dayton Xenia.
on Fairfield as well, because that's restricted.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So you couldn't
We're
get
already
left
making
out
it,
of
we've
the
only got a
site.
right only here. You can make a right out and then make a left to go west on Dayton Xenia, because it's going to create a traffic nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is I understand that, but all I can say is we've tried to make the situation best we could by limiting
I get that.
the left out across 5 lanes of traffic as opposed to the 2. Because if you get, or 3 lanes, excuse me, because you're coming across, you can get into that left turn lane coming out of there, crossing 2 lanes of traffic, and it is a situation. We have a Speedway. It's similar to what we have at CVS. It's similar to what you have at the retail center. It's similar to what you have at Speedway. I understand it. That's just the nature of a corner lot where we try to accommodate as much as we can in there. Obviously, it'll be a learned process for anybody who's local to get out of there and understand which is the best direction. But ultimately, we'd hope to have that connection in there, and maybe we could revisit it at that point. If it becomes an issue, the engineer's always got an option to put, I don't know, given the stacking of the left-hand turn lane, to put some kind of barrier in there from somebody going left, but I don't see that ever happening. Our main focus would be trying to alleviate the pressure by working with the bank to see what we can have them do in terms of connecting.
Okay.
But I understand your point. It's just a matter of what we have to work. When we work through these things with the applicant, it comes to a point where it's too restrictive, where they would just decide.
Sure,
not to
no, I
move
get that.
forward.
I would love it. I live like a
Yeah.
mile away, so I'd love for it to be right there, for sure. What about the 0-foot candles? It looked like there was some photometric bleed a little bit on the edge of the property line, like 0.2, 0.5. Was I reading that incorrect?
Yeah, that's really the 0-foot candle requirements only when
Is
you
that
own
only
a residential
Okay,
property.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. Could I ask the applicant a question about the left turnout?
Ask away.
Do you feel as the applicant that this would adversely affect your business
Yeah.
if we would limit that left out turn?
Yeah, first of all, as your staff indicated, we work with the city engineer. We were coming in using the existing access points as they were, two
Sure.
full access points, right? And the staff said, well, gee, we'd really like to see this connected over the bank. Okay, so we connected over the bank, and then we met with the city engineer, and the city engineer said, gosh, really don't want people turning left onto North Fairfield. Okay, fine, so we added the median in there. So we felt like we addressed the city engineer's immediate concerns about this, and since it was under his purview, that's what we did.
Sure.
And I don't mean this in a threatening manner at all, so please don't, I sit on my planning commission in my township. But if the other access point up on Dayton Xenia were to go without a left turn, Panera would not be able to locate here. So it is a business decision, and I know you all can appreciate that, but that's simply what it is. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I've got a few, and I'm not sure this is a staff or applicant. Although I know this is applicant. Your hours of operation will be till?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6:30 to 9 at night.
Okay. Yeah, the light spillover doesn't matter because you
Oh,
got
yeah,
commercial
no,
all the way around.
I'm
it.
not worried about that.
I was just curious if because of the drive-through, if you were going to be staying open a little.
No,
later
it's
or
not Taco Bell
Okay.
open till 2 in the morning. So, or
Right,
whatever
no,
it
I
is.
didn't figure. The bread gets stale by then. Okay, this would be for staff then. Is the access, the in access from North Fairfield, is that a right-in only? I was
Right
having
down
trouble.
here?
Yes. Or can you make?
That's full in,
It's a full in, so you can make a left into there.
right.
Okay, no, left.
The left, correct.
Never mind. Who's on first? So that's either direction.
Correct.
Do you know what the clearance is for the aisle between those parking places along the east edge, considering that there is a drive-through lane as well as a through lane for folks who are coming to park and eat inside? What I'm concerned about is there enough width for someone backing his big crew cab pickup truck out of one of those places while whanging into someone in the drive-through lane?
Yeah, I mean, with being the 60-degree angle that they are, they're required to have the 13-foot, which is what
Okay.
they provide for the
I
drive-off.
couldn't tell without scaling it, but
Right.
that's 13, that's the standard 13 feet.
Right.
Okay. And the drive-through now faces Dayton Xenia Road, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it wraps around the building.
Well,
so
that's what I mean, but the pickup window is on the North
facing
Fairfield side.
west. Yeah, you'll
Okay.
be in your car facing west.
Oh, that's north.
It's on the north side of the building.
Okay,
I mean-
other west. Okay. And staff doesn't have a problem with the drive-through being on one of the two main faces of the building?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you got parking out front and the ample landscaping that
Okay.
they put in.
And I would certainly encourage the city and the applicant to try to get that connection in. It took us 14 years to get it between Target and Continental Properties. I hope it doesn't take us that long for this one.
Yeah, I mean, the applicant's obviously willing right up to the property line, and I think, with the pavement being on the bank, it's just going to be a matter of getting the signature. I don't see the downside for the bank at this point with-
Okay,
with that.
good.
So I think it's just a matter of tracking down those owners and getting them to.
And I can certainly sympathize with the applicant. You've got wonderful location there in terms of visibility. It's just getting there that's the trouble. Originally, there was a Phillips 66 gas station on that corner, and it was exciting getting in and out of there. That was before the Friendlies. So good luck on this. I think that's all I've got. Gentlemen, second helpings? Any more questions? It is a four-sided building. In other words, there's no back to the building. It's the same level of decoration on all four sides. That's what I see. That's good, thank you. We'd have made you do it anyway. Second helpings, gentlemen? Are we good? Happy with the conditions as stated? In that case, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve PC 19-5 ASRA with the 18 attached conditions.
Okay. And,
I will second the motion.
okay, I have a motion and a second. And just before we go to vote, staff, we don't need anything in there about that east side access point because it's shown in the plan. We don't need that as a condition.
Correct.
Okay, good. Anything else before we vote? I'll ask for a roll call, Miss Melissa.
Mr. Loftus?
Yes.
Mr. Schreider?
Yes.
Mr. Self?
Yes, motion carries 3-0, and we're pleased that you're coming into our community a second time. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, we are finished with the public hearings now, and we have a decision item. That's all right.
Good evening again. Tonight we're here considering a minor modification for the mall at Fairfield Commons. This is related to signage. That's what makes it a minor modification. And really what we're looking at is the evolution of the mall and where we are and what they're looking at in terms of some of the new designs they've had, some of their get away from the major anchor stores that take up 80,000, 100,000, 150,000 square feet, and how do we accommodate and track some of the lower ones to repurpose those anchor stores. And one of the things I think you hear from like the Round One and the Room Place and some of those tenants moving in is just get some exposure from North Fairfield Road. And that makes sense given that most of the super centers up along that street have identification signs, and as long as they do it appropriately, we think it could be something that's an asset to the mall in terms of its sustainability over time. So here we're considering two separate signs, both of them which are on North Fairfield Road. There was a site plan here, so excuse me for the references in the site plan with site plan or sign B and sign A. We had to move these around a little bit, but this is sign A and this is sign B. So the one with the 58 square LED is the one that's furthest to the north on the starred map that you have in your packet. Both signs are about 40 feet tall, 164 square feet per sign face, totaling 328 each because they are double-sided. The reason for the change here was that we pointed out when they had they originally had these just to the south of those entrances, but they don't own that property and they also don't own the Starbucks property. So rather than them trying to go through what was originally approved and, originally they owned all the property and them going through the proper channels maybe to get the formal permission to do that, we looked at it and they agreed to probably the north side just as efficient as the south side of the road, of the access drives. So again, in the proposal originally, there was a provision for ground signs, monument signs. You may recall at one point there was a sign out here that was a tall metal pole that had some design on it, said Mall at Fairfield Commons a couple years ago. They decided to get away from that and put more of a monument type sign at the corner of Pentagon and North Fairfield Road. They have assured us that they will go back and put a little TLC into that sign to make it look compatible with some of the other things that are going on at the mall. It's their own mission. It's been kind of neglected a little bit over time, so we can go back and spruce up the landscaping, clean it up, and make it get the lights back on and make it an attractive feature to the mall again. But this pretty simple request in terms of it was originally approved with these signs, so the height and the square footage I think is even less than what was approved. It's just a matter of It was a long time ago getting this back in front of Planning Commission, make sure we're still where we need to be, and put some restrictions on it, given some of the changes that have occurred at the mall. And one of those is being the last condition on your staff report about only tenants with 25,000 square foot of space or more shall be permitted to occupy the top 5 panels of sign A. What we don't want to see is over time those get split in half, start trying to fit everybody on there. So we want to make sure we have limitations as to how those sign panels will be handled, not only now with this application, but moving forward, because it really is difficult to regulate content on a sign once it goes up. So we want to make sure we get this this condition in place at the ground level to make sure that there is specifications on the size requirement of the exposure of the tenants in the mall. But other than that, there are 6 other conditions that are pretty consistent with what you've come to expect over time. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them after the public hearing. Thank you. I mean, excuse me, after this.
Thanks. I was going to say, you're telling me something I didn't know before. Gentlemen, I'll just throw this open. Fire away.
I just had one question on the LED. Does the city have any mechanism if the thing's too damn bright? Because I know sometimes the signs
We do.
get aggressively bright.
I'll look at that again, because there is a provision here about the city's concerns before we issue a permit. We did put in pretty standard regulations for those when we looked at the LED signs originally, in terms of how fast they can transition, I think how bright the lumens can be, and I know we've done that for our monument signs, or the electronic billboard signs that are 35 in Fairfield. We'll just see if we can, maybe we'll reiterate that in here to keep those levels consistent with what we've approved.
Yeah, so they won't be allowed to show like video and things
Right,
like that, other
right.
than like maybe short.
Can't be animated. I mean, it's got like an 8-second hold time. And
Okay,
those
gotcha.
kind of things.
Cool. Okay, that's all I have.
I'm good.
Don't run off. I got 1 or 2 questions. You said the sign was going to be 40 feet and the drawing shows 30.
It was originally approved at 40.
Okay.
And they're coming in actually less tall than they were originally approved for.
Okay, good. No complaints there. The smaller segments down at the bottom, there's no particular square footage limitation on them.
Correct. It's top 5.
Pretty much whoever the mall owner wants to put in there.
Yeah, whoever pays most.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was being nice. But those could actually go, if there were more than 5 occupants with more than 25,000 square feet, then they would have a place on the board as a full width place, correct?
We didn't really regulate those, so,
Okay.
I mean, it just on the top 5 sign panels,
Right.
it has to be 25,000. If it's 25,000, they're on a smaller panel, that's fine too.
Okay. And my third question is, I just wasn't sure where these LEDs fit in.
What do you mean?
Well, are the LED lighting simply for back illumination?
Yeah, you can see, they've given you kind of a night rendering here.
No, this is a screen. This is going to be an LED screen.
Oh,
If you're talking
okay.
about this is actually going to be like a digital display board.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong picture, no wonder.
But at night,
There
they'll
we
give you
go.
what the backlit, the sign will be backlit.
Okay, okay.
But you'll see that that's not going to be, I mean, that's typical to
So
get the exposure to tenants
So,
at
but
night.
the LED screen can be animated?
Digitally depicted.
It'll
It can't
just-
be animated, like you can't have people running across it or
Okay.
cartoons or
It-
anything on
It
it.
won't be motion, it'll just be
Correct.
stills,
Correct.
with an 8-second change?
I believe so.
Right, I just don't want drivers to get too distracted.
It's like what we have on 35
Got
when you
it.
go down there.
Okay, just a smaller version.
Right.
Okay. And y'all are happy with the way the monument sign is set up on the gray pillars, the 5-foot pillars, or,
The stone there?
yeah, the 6.5-foot pillars with
Yeah,
the-
that's proportionate.
Okay, I presume that's metal above it, the 2 posts
Right.
that grow out of the pillars?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
Actually,
Looks
do
good and
have-
modern.
I actually do have one more
Okay,
question, Mr. Commissioner.
fire away.
Is there any provision that stops them from turning the LED sign into multiple additional signs?
Like taking the panels down?
No, you could just draw a panel with 8
Oh,
different logos all
no.
slammed together. I mean,
No, there is nothing that would prevent that. again, that gets
I
really,
know I'm overthinking this, but I know.
no, I mean,
know
that's,
how
it
sometimes I
could,
think to get around.
theoretically, it could happen. It'd just be a digital display of some of the tenants there. I don't see that happening, but
Right.
once you get into it, it becomes real hard to regulate the content of the sign.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Does the city have the ability to regulate that after we do this?
Not according to the Supreme Court. I mean, we have a lot of,
No, and I mean, honestly, I don't know that you wouldn't even probably need to even divide it into 8 screens that effectively just electronically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is you
Create-
just make a one image with 8
create-
logos
exactly, and I
slammed
think
together,
there's
and you've got
really-
yourself 8 more signs you can
And
sell
we can't
perpetually.
really, yeah.
yeah, but we've been cautioning about that on the, like the free speech and the signs
Yeah.
content issue
God,
with,
it is.
by Mr. McHugh here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We had to rewrite
But
our
we can
sign
limit
laws.
the static hard plastic to a certain size.
We can limit design, we can limit
Right.
architecture, we can limit size, you know, you can
Okay.
limit location. And there are provisions for obviously anything profane or pornographic or something like that. You know, there's some standards that they did adopt when it comes to content, but it was, other than that, it's, the state still has rules in place, and I don't know that this would fall in line with that about anything within 600 feet of 675, since this is interstate. You can't put a billboard up or an electronic billboard that advertises off-site content, which is a little dicey there too in terms of how the state regulates that. But that goes back to 1956 when Lady Bird Johnson's rule about how you treat highways, and she was trying to get rid of all the paper billboards up along the highway. So if your grandfathers, you were incorporated before 1956, and obviously we weren't until 1980, so 675 is off limits, not 35, because it's a state route. But any interstate, it does have limitations. This does fall outside the 600-foot purview, so it'd really be, their intent is to advertise just the mall tenants, not to have anybody else.
Right,
or
right. events
events or whatever they're having there.
Okay, cool. That was my only question. I was just kind of curious. We did have a provision in there, and I guess the city doesn't have an opinion one way or the other on.
I mean, obviously, hopefully they want to make it look good, so do we. so.
Sure. Okay, that was all I had. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
The folks that run the mall have been pretty good about
Yeah.
keeping it looking nice,
It was more
for
of a
which we are all
curiosity if
happy.
we see more of these LED signs to understand what our limitations
Is
are.
that engendered any
Oh, yeah.
further questions with y'all? Are we good?
No.
Okay, then I need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve PUD 88-21 mod 8/19 minor.
Okay,
With 7?
With the attached 7 conditions. Yeah.
Right.
7 conditions.
I'll second.
okay, I have a motion and a second. Anything else before we vote? Then I'll ask for a roll call.
Mr. Schreider,
Yes.
Mr. Loftus.
Yes.
Mr. Self.
Yes, motion carries 3-0, and we are down to our last item, which is the Mall at Fairfield Common subdivision.
Same property, just looking at a different aspect of it for a different project. This is the subdivision or the replat for the Mall at Fairfield Commons to accommodate the hotel that was recently approved. I know the staff report stated it will be considered by City Council in August, but this was written for an August meeting that we didn't have. So the City Council has approved the dual brand hotel in this location, so they did hold off a month to accommodate. So this wasn't the only case we had on our file last year, or only case we had on the agenda last month. So they are proposing to break off a 2.1 acre lot in that same location where you saw that site plan for the hotel. They will be owned by the hotel developer. We did route this out to different organizations. All their comments and concerns will have to be addressed before we get to sign the Mylar to have this recorded. That's about it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions, gentlemen? I believe this is what one of our former commissioners, Tom Pollock, would have said is a no-brainer. So if you have no questions, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve case number S19-3 with the attached 3 recommendations.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Thank you, I have a second. And just for form, we'll read the roll.
Mr. Loftus.
Yes.
Mr. Schreider.
Yes.
Mr. Self.
Yes, motion carries 3-0. And gentlemen, we are fresh out of items on our agenda. So I will ask for one final motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the September meeting of zoning commission.
And I know you're going to second.
I'll second.
And we are at 6:45. Thank you very much, folks.